you've downloaded the Lost Information and Unfinished Conversations episode. This is a bonus episode to you. Kind of. It's to you. We like you. Wanna touch on you. Shit like that. The episode is a result of us having recording issues. We've had 3 recordings that we didn't really know what to do with. The time was a little short and was too long to delete. So we put them together in this spliced piece of interestingness, possibly, hopefully. Might have just wasted your time with all of this and me talking, but that's what this is. They'll probably show back up as the recordings continue, as long as we can continue recording. One of the conversations is a conversation I had with a buddy of mine, Duck. I'm really low in that, and I apologize. There was something on my end that was very, very low, and I don't know how to fix it. And then again, I'm not going to take the time to learn how to fix it at the moment, so you're going to get it as is. And hey, if somebody wants to go in there and mess with all those tunings and put it back out, I thank you. I will re-up this episode with that piece in it. We would appreciate that. But we know you're not going to do that because we're not even going to do that. But if you do, thanks. Anyway, enjoy.
That's what she said.
We're good.
Don't hit the delete button.
Fuck you. So we're on hated games, yes, or games that we were disappointed in, or other such shit.
All right, we can do games that we thought would be good and were disappointed in, because that I think even more so than games that you just despise, like Halo. I never really expected to like Halo, and my expectations were met. I hate it, you know.
Mm-hmm. No, totally understand that.
Figured I would hate it. Those games to me aren't nearly as like evil as the games you really expect to be good, and then you get them and you're just, for whatever reason, you don't like them. You know, like, I'll give an example. Dragon Age. That's a game that a bunch of people loved, and it's a game that by all means I should probably love and think is awesome. But for whatever reason, I just could not get into the game. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it played. I didn't like the talent system. I didn't like that it was... Again, it's
talking about the first one, right?
Yeah, again, it's a game that I thought was being edgy for the sake of being edgy.
Well, and for me, like that, one of my games is going to be WoW. It just because as much as everybody was into it, I just could not really get into that game, and I understand why it's such a good game.
Yeah, to be fair, that you started trying to play a druid, and at the time you were trying to play a druid, it was like one of the crappiest things in the game.
Well, fair enough, but
now it's the most broken thing in the game. I feel like everyone has one, but at the time you were playing it, they were pretty shit awful.
Well, and Borderlands is the first game of this type that I've... and when I say type, I'm looking at... You've got multiple character types to select from, and then you want to build strengths towards what you're good at, etc., etc. And WoW it has so much going on with it. I'm just not interested in it. Just not. It's just there's too much shit. It's one of the reasons I can't play D&D, which is a little sad because I know it's a good game. I'm just like,
that's
bored.
I mean, that's like for instance, I tried to get Michelle to play Warcraft a little bit. Not really try, but just kind of testing the waters type deal.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing for her, that there's just, at the time, they've made it a lot easier now with the way they've set up the way the game starts. But at the time, for somebody who's playing games and games like that, it's not a whole lot. It's because you're used to it, you know what they expect, you know what to be looking for. But if you've never played a game like that at all, there's a lot of shit thrown at you.
Yeah,
There used to be right at the beginning. And there's some people that get, I don't know, paralyzed by choice maybe. I don't understand. Maybe that's the right way to look at it. It appeals to a certain meticulous kind of personality.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a super meticulous person in general, but when it comes to certain stuff like that, for some reason my mind latches onto it and it enjoys, I guess, the problem solving of it or whatever you want to classify it as when it comes to playing a game.
Yeah.
Which is why with World of Warcraft, I think it's incredibly funny because I view the recent talent changes they've done with it as actually making it more meticulous. But people, I think it's like a simple psychology trick. People see that you have 3 talent choices every 15 levels now, and people see that few things that you get to click on. Like the old talent trees, you had like what's like 70 points by the time you were level 85 to spend or some ridiculous crap.
Something like that.
Or like 60 points. Anyway, you had so many points, so people thought there was a complexity there that really, at the end of the day, didn't exist. When you crunched the numbers and did a spreadsheet on what people were actually using, across the board, most of those talents were non-choices. They didn't involve anybody actually sitting down and thinking deeply and making a decision about that talent. Because at the end of the day, when the talent says that it's going to give you 5% more damage, you're going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't care. I mean, there's no choice involved. The new talents seem simple. They don't do game-breaking things,
Mm-hmm.
or they all sound alike, but they're all used differently in different situations. And because there are less of them to choose from, people say that they've dumbed the game down. They've made it easier to play, and to an extent they have, because with those talents, there's no wrong choice. Your character's not going to fail horribly, but as far as making your character min-maxed in different situations and knowing when those different situations are and when you need to swap out your talents, they made it a lot more complex. And I don't think people give them credit for that, because they see fewer things to click on. To them equates to making it easier, when I think it actually went the other way.
Well, yeah, and I think part of my thing is why I've gotten so far away from RPGs and that kind of stuff is because I'm a bigger fan of being entertained than trying to figure out, oh my god, what the fuck is that in the background?
I don't
My
know.
Bluetooth headset died.
That would be it.
But I'm a bigger fan of being entertained than I am following us or going along with the story, but making sure that I've got all the right tweaks so I can get the very next step of the story. I kind of like a story that's on rails, but that I don't have to be too challenged to get to progress in it. I don't mind if something's hard. I just mind if, okay, you're not using the right gun, or you're not, you need this particular type of effect in order to beat that boss, or this or that. And most MMOs and most RPGs require you to maintain all of that, and I think for me that takes away from what's going on and me actually being entertained.
Well, yeah, and I think it's just that that's not the type of entertainment you get. For people that like MMOs, that is usually where the entertainment lies, which is why Warcraft, and to a lesser extent the Lord of the Rings Online, kind of stuck out to me as decent MMOs, because I was getting my MMO fix as far as like the character optimization being fun for me, but that there's also a story there. And that's why all of the MMOs I've tried to get off of WoW with, like I played I can't, Rift or whatever it was called, even D&D Online, which you figure I would love because I love regular D&D, and I played one called Fury, which was mostly PvP. You just, none of the stories there are good. So I mean, to me, yeah, MMOs are fun when you get the character optimization, but I still have to have a story too. So I'm kind of like you in that I like the story to be important, because if there's not any kind of lore or story that I give a shit about, I just lose interest. Like Rift, I lost interest in because it really is, you're playing an MMO to play an MMO. The story there just blows goats. It's almost non-existent.
No, which I totally understand. It's why when I'm in the mood to like really play a puzzle game, it doesn't matter if there's a story. It's the matter of how good the puzzles are. And then at that point, I turn to tactical-based turn games, or something where like Flower. Have you played that? No, you haven't played that. Corey, have you?
No,
played that yet?
you showed me some videos of it.
Yeah,
Though.
that game is so beautiful and it's brilliant. and the story is important. It is very important, but it tells you a story that you get subversively. Yes, yeah. You get it
Subconsciously.
subconsciously, yes. And you're just like, I understand what's going on, and they haven't said any words. They haven't really told me a whole lot. I'm just doing this, and I get it, and these emotions are happening, and I don't fully understand what's going on, but I get it. And I think that makes that game great. And but yet again, it's a puzzle game because you have to make sure you figure all the stuff out to make this happen or that happen, but it isn't telling you what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
I think that's important to make a good game. I don't. So, what game do you? What's a big game that you've got that you're just like, oh, I hate this piece of shit.
Um. Well, another one that was like really disappointing to me was Diablo 3. Like, it's not disappointing on like the level of some other games, but it was underwhelming. Like I was, because Diablo 2 is fucking awesome, and I expected them to do that and then some. But it's really like they just kind of did that and then put a fresh coat of paint on it.
Yeah.
Like they didn't really do anything that I thought was groundbreaking or new. Um,
Corey, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you.
yeah, a little bit.
Excellent.
Supreme authority over these nuts, nigga. I'm leaving. You want to stop me? You gonna have to shoot me. Ow,
Yeah, no. You're
All right.
You're absolutely not. You're absolutely not. And that's kind of how this thing fucking works.
All right. Well, I don't hear an echo now.
Of course not. Of course fucking not. Because I shit you not, this thing fucking hates me. It really fucking hates me. But so just as an explanation on what's going on, it's really hard to time things with Chris because of the 4-hour difference and shit. So every once in a while, people like you and I think Wesley wants to get in one day and shit like that, maybe taking over every now and again. That's cool with you.
I can dig it.
You can dig it? Sweet. And then again, if you get the urge to fucking start one, please invite me. I would love to just have more conversations with you, sir.
Not a problem. I got to talking with Derek, and we were thinking about maybe doing a science one. We're not 100% sure the direction we'd even take it, but science was one of the avenues we first struck out on with our theory.
Yeah, did you know me and Chris were doing this podcast like way before and shit?
Yeah, I had seen it, and then I recently saw the really long one. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna listen to it, see what the hell's going on, and I listened to quite a bit of it, and had it on as background while I was doing shit in the house too, and I got to one part where Chris was like, yeah, I'll buy the expensive kidney, and I was like, I gotta get up with him. I was like, I'll try it.
Yeah, no, I mean, as an overall, like the total goal of this, because I don't know how much of it you kind of read or even paid attention to, but since he moved, it was the best way to stay in contact. And one day someone might die, and too early, but at least we'll have these to reminisce on. Or like in John's case, he's fucking in the military right now and doesn't have a whole lot of free time, so it's just a good way to listen to your old friends and shit. And
Way to shoot the shit with distant friends that can't be in the same room.
yep.
I can dig it.
Yeah, as long as, I mean, I think he's a funny motherfucker. He at least at some point thinks I am, so eventually we'll make other motherfuckers laugh. And
Well, I don't know what I'll add, but I'm still gonna throw my shit in the pot.
hey man, it's just it's me and you fucking talking like we normally do. We can't hit on normal subjects like we would, but
There we go. And when are you gonna start recording, or am I already?
oh, we've been recording for the past like 3 minutes.
Dig it. No problem. No problem.
Yeah,
Just
no.
making sure.
Yeah, if you go back and pay attention to, I think like the first 2 or 3 we tried to have an opening, and I just said fuck that. Just like you heard me fiddling with the tuning and all that at the beginning of the last one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which I mean yours will probably go up in a couple of weeks, just because that other one was fucking long.
Ain't worried about it, man. Put it up whenever you get to it.
Yeah. Hey, and when I put it up, I'll let you know it's up. Shoot it to your entire friends list.
I
Fuck
can
it.
Definitely dig that. Nothing else. Get it out roundabouts.
Yeah, I mean, we
Nothing's better than word of mouth.
yeah we put up that Facebook page yesterday, and I mean, I just hit my entire friends list and 30 likes. So thank you, supportive friends. Thank you for supporting stupid things I like doing.
Yeah, there you go. When you say it's nice to have supportive friends, we all get you in trouble in the end.
You got me in the most motherfucking trouble.
Hey, I'm not gonna take all the credit for that. You had your own consciousness.
No, 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 no. I blame you. I blame you for
Ah,
everything.
come on now.
What was it? You were 14. I'm like, you can get me drunk. Get me drunk. We're what, 3 years apart, and you were like, done.
I think you're telling on yourself here, West.
Oh, I don't give a fuck. Like, everybody knows this story. It is one of the funniest stories I have to tell. Which you still never gave me all the ins and outs of that fucking drunk.
Oh
ass
yeah,
night.
man, that's I'm too far removed to remember all the in and outs of my damn self. All I remember is Schlitz, malt liquor, and a lot of cannabis.
Apparently, well, I know I had alcohol poisoning because that's the only way I could have pulled that entire night off.
Yeah, he drank a lot of Schlitz. God damn, that was a lot of Schlitz. I want to say at least a 24 pack.
You showed up with Bacardi 151.
Yeah, I remember there was brown liquor at first, but I man, like I say, the details are very vague now.
Oh, I don't forget, motherfucker, because you showed up.
Yeah, I do remember we were at Benji's in the barn in the back. I remember that.
Oh, well, we started off in front of my house. You showed up with a Snapple air bottle.
That's
full
right. I
of-
got it from Chuck.
Yes, yes, and you were like, "Here you go, buddy." And I'm like, "Oh, that's hard." Took a couple of sips, and then we went for a walk. Took a couple more sips, went for another walk, and then apparently the night got interesting.
Yeah, that's when you kept bumping into me and then told me to walk straight. Like I was the one fucking swerving.
That was partly deliberate.
Didn't you fall in a mud puddle that night?
No, I was taking a piss and fell on my back.
That's right. It's pissing straight up in the air.
I did not piss on myself though.
No, he didn't. He managed to get up while still pissing. And I say there had to be some on you. There's
Oh,
no
dude.
way to have not have,
By
but
the
we'll
way-
leave that alone.
By the way, you don't have to talk to the audience. It's just me and you. Just
Yeah.
me and you, man.
Fair enough.
Because honestly, like, I appreciate the people who are going to take the time to listen, such as you did, but fuck them.
Make it more personal if nothing else, and that'll
Exactly.
actually add a little meat to it.
Exactly. I mean, I've known you since God, how long?
Mm,
12
God
years?
damn it, it's been a long time. Let's say 15 years, 16.
Yeah, no, you're
Si-
right. Because I'm
that's-
almost 30.
Yeah, about 16 years, man.
Shit.
Yeah.
First
It's-
motherfucker I got high with.
Yeah, remember that fucking bong we threw behind your parents' house?
We never found that motherfucker.
No, sir, we didn't, man. God, we had a lot of fun nights sitting out on that bench.
Yeah, the ones that I can remember.
Yeah, I remember walking around the flower bed when they still had the railroad ties there.
Oh yeah, high or drunk as shit.
God, yeah. Oh fuck! What about the night they caught us sneaking back in?
Oh, don't. Even
Oh, that was
do
fucking horrible, dude. I remember your ass was halfway in the window and your mom comes bolting in the door. The hell are you thinking? I
And
remember sitting there thinking,
Anthony
God
takes-
damn, I wish you hadn't walked in. That's what I'm thinking.
And Anthony takes fucking charge and just leaves. What a d-bag. Fuck. So how the fuck did you slice open your foot?
Well, actually, it's a pretty bland story. Doing dishes, just dropped a cup and reacted to the cup dropping, and I actually jumped on a piece of glass and ended up hurting myself worse than if I had stood still. Yeah, that God blessed reaction, man. I swear, it would look like it was going right for a toe, man. It was singled out my big one, and I saw the laser like lock in, and it was either a broke toe or snatch, and snatch was the reaction, and I happened to land on a piece of glass.
How far did it go in?
Oh, it's. Would you like a picture?
No. I'm good, sir. I was just fucking curious.
Let's say we can send files over Skype.
I'm good. I'm good. I'll let
Oh,
you. I'll let you attach to the page when this episode goes up and saying just like this is what I was talking about, fuckers. And
this
then
is it. Let me go ahead and take a picture of that right now. Uh,
oh, you cunt bastard.
mm,
Um, oh, and by the way, like in about 15 minutes, I'm gonna stop it so I can save because I've had way too many issues with losing media.
all right.
Yeah, yeah.
Understandable.
So
What system you running?
Oh, I'm just on Audacity.
Oh, okay.
Um, so what was with that fucking pic about you playing Magic?
Oh, I'm starting to teach Rick how to play a little bit.
Rick, is that?
That was the cat that you met while I was outside watering the flowers.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty cool, although lost boy.
Yeah, you could say that. Definitely not a tender soul, but he's something to be.
Be what?
He's something that I
Oh,
mean, he's a really good guy. He's got a really good personality, and he's just an all around nice guy. And he's got a lot of intelligence to be.
oh, right. No, I got you. Okay, so I actually do have a subject of conversation that is really nerdy, and you have to go into a whole lot of fucking detail about this because, as much of a fan of this as I am, you can actually do it, and I've never fucking understood why you never try to do anything with it.
Well, hold on. Let me get a beer. 5 seconds.
All right. That's that was a lot of static. I might have to cut that out because of dumb. Wow, look at that.
Time's running a little over, but it'll be all right. Fuck it.
Uh-huh.
All right. Now, what was your question on what subject?
By the way, next time you do that, hit the mute button, dude. There's a mute button on Skype.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Oh, but damn.
Yeah, because that was fucking loud, and I'm gonna have to cut that shit out, possibly, if I remember to.
I apologize for cutting.
Eh. No, I mean, cuts happen every now and again with long pauses and shit, but whatever. Okay. You love music a lot, and I have watched you become a fantastic guitar player.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Why have you never been in a band?
Well, to be honest, I kind of see the theory of a band.
Hold on 1 second. Can you turn your output down a little bit?
My output. Yes, sir. I can. Hold on. Bring up my mixer.
Yep,
Oh,
that's right.
any better?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Dig it. All right. Well, to be honest, I kind of see the theory of a band as I do religion. If you go into the premise of forming those sorts of bonds or connections, or even just to replicate the things that people have based on the premise of what it is, then it's not going to achieve, a true epitome of what it is. Unfortunately, when people go together with making bands, they kind of have ambitions. And don't get me wrong, ambitions give drive, but at the same token, they also hinders one foresight when something meager comes along and you choose to deny it because you're looking for something a little more grandiose.
Yeah, but don't you love it?
I do, but by the same token, I know humans' mindsets, and I don't necessarily trust them enough to have that sort of communication. And I know that's taken something like playing music on an extraordinary level of consciousness with its interpretation. But when you really break it down, if you can't say that it's not, you can't say that it could be, or if you can't say that it definitely isn't, can't rule it out.
I would.
And
I would.
I don't necessarily like the angle people go when they're going to form a band. They kind of have those ambitions of A, money, and B, famous. They don't actually.
Whoa. Well, I've known many a band that don't start that way. I know actually a guy that just moved to L.A. Someone I would definitely call my friend. He loves music so much that he just wants to be a part of it. Like that's what he wants his life.
Well, now if I could find somebody with common, viewpoint, and could actually form a bond with the person before we went to go start a band, that would be something different. I mean, that's also a rarity to find.
Well, you're also living in shit town.
Now, by all means, if he'd like to do something over the internet, I could dig it. But what does he
Oh,
play?
well, he's been a producer for the past couple of years, but I was just using him as a rebuttal.
Oh, gotcha.
Just being like, this is somebody who just loves music that much. Um,
I just saying, most people now want to get together and play covers. And don't get me wrong, covers are nice tributes, but they don't do anything. It's not the output that a real band should have.
no, I absolutely agree with you, and I've always considered you a creative person. So I would definitely say like it would be more along the lines of you forming a band or you becoming a part of a band that's trying to create new music instead of just trying to create what's the word I'm looking for? Just
Replication.
yeah, replication. That there you go.
And don't get me wrong, once again, that's kind of taking the theory a little far. But by the same token, if you're going to put every essence of yourself into something thousands of people are going to hear, you want it to be with a trusted constituent who you make it with.
No, no, I would do I would go about it with a completely different mindset. I would go about it the same way I started this podcast as I'm doing this for me and I'm going to put it out there for everybody else to have, but if they don't like it, fuck them. That's not my
That's
problem.
right.
And that's how I honestly think you should go about it. If you were ever interested in starting a band, like I've never really heard you talk about it. I've never seen you pursue it. But then again, in Washington, the hardest thing to find is a drum player.
Well, drums are one of the things that I think can be most easily substituted with electronics.
Uh huh.
Because that's your meat, your beat.
Uh huh.
Yeah, but I still I don't know. I've actually recently discussed getting together with Joe, one of Derek's friends, and Brad Flowers, Rachel and Michelle's cousin.
I don't know if I know either one of them.
He was in open barrel season with Wes Toller.
West Toller, West Toller. No, I don't know it.
You know Wes.
Well,
He
I know
used to
West.
live out on DL Lane.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I just no, I don't. I didn't know they were in anything.
Yes, sir. They actually had a band, and he asked me recently to go play with some of their new people they got together. But once again, man, I don't I don't want to start playing music with somebody with intentions of making a band, because then that holds you to an achievement, And I just want to play music with people. I don't
Well,
care whether we're forming a band or not, and it's hard to find anybody that just wants to jam anymore.
well, if you were to form a band, that would mean that you have a sound in your head that you want to create, and you know you can't do it on your own, right?
Oh, you know better than that. Will the
Uh,
sound actually have any specific direction?
well, that's what I'm asking. Is if you had an idea for a sound to be produced, but you know you have to put these other pieces together to make it happen. What what genre would you flow into?
I don't know what genre does Promise fall into, or did they make their own?
I really have no idea. What does Wikipedia say?
I believe they made their own. Let's check it.
Yeah, because that's happening.
I mean, both of us are sitting in front of a fucking computer.
Well, I know. It's alternative rock, funk metal, experimental rock, funk rock, alternative metal, progressive rock, comedy rock. So it's it's alternative rock.
All right, well let's. I really don't know, cause I'd hope I'd produced everything from uh dubstep to bluegrass.
Well, you've got to start somewhere. You can't go for all of it at once. I mean, unless you're
No,
like
I
Massive
reckon
Attack.
my acoustic and electric guitar skill is more refined.
Oh,
So I
I
mean,
know that's
probably start off somewhere with a folky acoustic, or I don't know. Have you heard 21 Pilots? The way the lead singer does some of his lyrics with rapping.
no, no, I have not.
You ought to check them out. They're actually pretty good. Check out Car Radio.
All right,
I really think you'll like them.
that one I feel like I've heard before. Um,
Really clever lyrics.
are you into the folk scene?
Um, I I like a little bit of it all. I like the Avid brothers. I like Avicil. I like Mumford and Sons. There's a lot of underground bluegrass. I don't like the heavy, heavy folky stuff. Don't get me wrong, to each his own, but I don't necessarily like mine quite that bluegrassy. Come in. Hang on one second.
All right, all right. I'll save here.
All right, I'll mute.
Dude. 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 And now I'm watching lolcats videos because for some reason this has taken a really long time for him to answer the motherfucking door. Oh crap! Oh hell no.
Alright.
But yeah, no, you need to write shit, motherfucker. Welcome to the Nerd Method Podcast. Your host West.
And Chris.
Holy shit! No delayed pause. Okay, so you mentioned the Disney buyout of Lucasfilms. How do you feel?
I don't know. I mean, I'm still on the fence about it. There's a lot of money that supposedly George Lucas is going to give to education, and I'm a firm believer in education, so that's always a plus. But
yeah, but that's politics. I mean, how do you feel about Disney acquiring the Star Wars franchise and saying they're making an Episode 7?
Well, there's a lot of people freaking out about it and saying that Disney's going to ruin it, and then you have people like Chris thinks Corey, that is, thinks that Disney could do a better job considering the last three that George Lucas did were kind of not nearly as good as the old ones. I don't know. I'm still on the fence because Disney bought out Marvel, and they've not wrecked Marvel's movies so far. Marvel's movies have all been really good.
Well, remember,
see how the next batch end up.
Well, remember the buyout with Marvel was Marvel wanted to finish a bunch of stuff that they already had going on, and I think that included the entire Avengers thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, but Disney still has their hand in it.
Well, true.
And we're about to get another batch of those movies. I think they'll stay okay. In general, I see this as Disney grabbing money, not grabbing the product. Kind of like they did with Pixar when they got Pixar back from, by offering Steve Jobs a ridiculous stake in Disney to get Pixar back. They've not. I mean, the Pixar movies haven't really declined. If anything, they've gotten better. But no, the only thing that I'm a little bit worried about with the Disney thing is the new movies. Like I would have been okay with them doing like animated stuff or alternate universe stuff. I'm a little worried about what they're going to do with the movies because they're talking about a new trilogy, 7, 8, 9. And they're talking about 2015, which George Lucas spent a lot of time per movie making his movies. I just feel like 2015's maybe a little quick. I don't know. I don't know enough about it and about their plans to come out and say that, oh God, it's going to be awful, boycott it, because I wasn't doing that when episode 1, 2, and 3 came out. And even though
we were also
didn't
different
like those
ages
as much
at the time.
Well, we were in 8th grade when episode 1 came out, and even though I thought some of the stuff was cheesy, I was still really excited because I was too young to experience the old ones in the theater. So this was my Star Wars experience in the theater, and I think that some kids, this new trilogy will be their Star Wars that they get to see in the theater. And even if those kids grow up, in my opinion, culturally retarded because they like the new ones better than the old ones, even if that happens, I still wouldn't want to deny a generation of kids that experience because it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I
absolutely agree. I'm actually kind of excited for it because as an overall, I feel Lucasfilms, and not just encompassing the Star Wars franchise, but everything involved with Lucasfilms, I feel like he's been screwing up a lot because he's been wanting to kind of go back to the well, and he screwed up the well. Which may mean we get another type of Indiana Jones movie, which would be really cool. But with the Star Wars franchise, like, when I found out that what was supposed to happen after episode 6, like I wanted to see that. Like that was my interest.
Oh, you're talking about like the Shadows of the Empire and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Because what Luke is on a hunt for the original Emperor, and Leia becomes a Jedi against Luke, and all of that stuff. I thought the whole idea premise behind that was brilliant.
Yeah, because Luke has to go to the dark side to infiltrate the Emperor, but he ends up not being able to control it, and so Leia has to fight him. I mean, that was a really cool story. The Again, the part that comes to me about the wariness is that all of those actors are really old, which means you've either got to have really old actors and manage to sell me on the idea that they're a lot younger than they are, which probably isn't going to happen, or you've got to replace them. And I just don't see them being able to replace Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher. I just don't see them being able to do it, which means that 7, 8, and 9 is either going to have to skip over.
Dude? Dude? Sorry, we had technical difficulties.
Yep, it happens.
But the...
That or Lucas heard that we were talking about his product.
Oh, true.
Trying to suppress it.
But yeah, no, the Shadows of the Empire thing, I feel that story may be a lot more entertaining, and I think it's just a good progression from what 4, 5, and 6 were. Because 4, 5, and 6 was just trying to get this rebellion thing going, and then you wanting them to succeed, but after that kind of happens, the movie ends, but it doesn't feel like the story's done yet. You know, like there is more to watch. And I think that's a really cool idea, but with that said, it could wind up being a very bad set of moves as if Disney tries to make it a little slap happy over it being dark like it should be. But you're right, the characters or the actors today, they're older, and that does pose a problem. But then again, I would possibly be more okay with the idea of just changing who's doing what. Saying, like, let's say Leia or Luke, they wind up having a kid, and they have the Force, and they're the ones that are going down the thing. You can keep a very similar story going.
I don't know,
that.
man. When you start playing with stuff like that, though, you have the fans who've read these books and these comics, and they like crawl out of the woodworks and form a lynch mob. Disney would burn to the ground, I think. I just like I don't see them being able to like really fuck up one of the stories that already exists, because the fans they would hate it. They would come out of the woodworks and they would hate it. I think really their only options are, one, do the story Shadows of the Empire, the stuff that happened after episode 6, after Jedi, and either do that, because it's an awesome story. It really is. I mean, it deserves movie time. So their choices are either do that with the existing actors and just have them be old and people can deal with it, or do it with new actors and people will have to deal with that, or just skip ahead a bunch of years and have them do some of the stories with Luke's kid that he had with Mara Jade, or with Han and Leia's kids. Because doing the stories of the kids is not a bad idea, as long as they don't try to rewrite an existing story and replace the people that did it. Because I really feel like I wouldn't. I could personally give two shits, because I've not really read any of those books. I read the graphic novels and stuff, but I didn't read any of the like novels of what came after, and so I could care less. But there are a bunch of fans that this is like liquid gold to them, and if you poison that well, they will eternally hate it. That being said, I don't think Disney will ruin the tone, like make it too kiddie. I mean, I heard they did a really excellent job with John Carter. I think because most of the reviews I read of John Carter by people that were actually fans of the book and whatnot, or book series rather, said that they thought it was done really, really well. The problem being, a lot of people saw the previews. The previews, in my opinion, weren't incredibly well done. And they just saw it and they thought it was going to be like a Star Wars ripoff, so they skipped it. So John Carter kind of crashed at the box office. It didn't get enough people to go to see it.
True.
And I don't know, with Star Wars, it's got a built-in sell. I mean, you can make a crappy preview, but because it's Star Wars, people still go see it.
True, true. Yeah. I feel I am a little excited because it's not like Lucas didn't have the money to put behind it, but Lucas also didn't have the what's the word I'm looking for? The additional resources that Disney does. Disney has Pixar. Disney has Marvel. Disney has all these other things under its umbrella, and just to add another iconic symbol to it, there could be massive collaborations with the correct people in the correct situations, just putting something amazing together. And I'm more pro Disney having its hands in it than Lucas maintaining its own thing.
Well, yeah, that like I said, I mean George Lucas is old, so who else is he gonna give it to? Like the way I see it, this was a responsible decision on his part to hand it off to people who, we don't know what kind of job they're gonna do with it, obviously, because they haven't produced anything yet, but someone that he feels can do a decent job with it. And despite the many faults that Disney has had over the years, they do a lot of stuff right.
Mm-hmm.
And capturing imagination is one of the things that Disney has always done right. And I think that's the essence of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Really.
And no, I absolutely agree. It's kind of like watching certain movies at the right time and understanding what they are, and like Goonies. Goonies is a hands down fantastic flick. But to get a kid to watch it in comparison to an adult to watch it for the first time, two totally separate reactions, because a kid has that fantasy element built into his head, and like how unplausible that entire scenario is. The fact that a kid's like, this could exist, where an adult's just like, yeah, that would be fun, but we live in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of I watched Monster Squad with the girlfriend the other day, and I don't think she liked it nearly as much as I did, and I think that has a lot to do with the age factor. The whole, watching it like 15 years after you probably should have.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't think I've actually watched that movie yet.
What? Nah, dude. Nah, that's not even. No.
Well, I have a
We
child
need
like
to just
mine.
stop recording right the fuck now so you can watch Monster Squad.
I'll make sure I legally acquire it. Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
saw that.
Emphasis on legally, I hope. No, wait.
I don't know. Like, what are other
The-
movies that kind of stroked you the right way at the right time?
Um, I don't know. The more I think about it, when I go back and watch movies on my shelf, there are a lot of movies I own that were amazing at the time I got them and have not aged well. Uh, for instance, shit. I want to say Scott Pilgrim, but that's not it.
No, Scott Pilgrim's
Napoleon Dy-
fantastic. We'll get to
Napoleon
that.
Dynamite. Napoleon
Right.
Dynamite came out, and at the right time, that movie just had a zeitgeist. Like, everybody loved it. But if you go back and watch it now, it's just kind of like,
Stupid.
it's a little awkward.
I hated that movie. I hated that movie. I after several viewings, and a few of them not sober, I found some humor in it. But as an overall, I felt that movie was terrible. Like, my favorite part of the movie, which I honestly believe is the only funny part in that movie, is when that school bus stops and the dude puts down the cow. I lost my shit.
I don't know why. It's just I still have a special place in my heart for the little dance he does at the end to shit Jamiroquai.
Right.
I just it makes me laugh, and it every now and then I'll still do the little emote in World of Warcraft on my Blood Elf, because the Blood Elf dudes in WoW do the Napoleon Dynamite dance when you dance with them,
Right.
just to make myself giggle. because it's a funny dance. I don't know. And Napoleon Dynamite, I think it was funny to me when it came out because it was different. I mean, it was completely different
Fair.
from like anything else out at the time.
And you were working at the movie store, right?
Yeah, and part of that, I think that's part of the strength and weakness of any kind of artistic endeavor or storytelling endeavor is when you do something really, really different. It's really cool the first time you see it, but then it just kind of doesn't have the same magic. Like The Sixth Sense. I mean, the first time you watch it, especially if you watched it when it came out, as opposed to now that there've been a ton of other movies like it.
Mm-hmm.
If you watched it when it first came out, it was freaking awesome. And even the second or third time where you're spotting all the times in the movie that you should have felt like a complete dumbass for not noticing that Bruce Willis was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler! But not really, because if you haven't seen The Sixth Sense by now, go walk out into traffic. Um, but yeah, I mean, like after that, the movie has like no magic at all.
Well, absolutely agree. Like, anytime I get a chance, or I find out that someone hasn't seen it, I tell them go watch it, and you'll enjoy it. Just don't watch it a second time, because I watched it with you in the theaters when it came out, and that movie was fucking creepy.
And that
Like-
was my second time seeing it, but
Yeah.
I wanted to watch it again because I
Well,
thought it would be cool.
yeah.
I mean, it was
Well, you also notice different things, like every time Bruce Willis is in the room, there's something red.
And you also never you notice that no one but the kid ever acknowledges Bruce Willis
Yes.
like correctly.
And even though he's in the room and it's shot well, it's just you're like, I don't see these things until the second time through. And the only reason to watch it the second time through is for the Easter eggs that are within it, because that's what is kind of important about the movie, is how they use the surrounding to tell you these things without actually blatantly telling you. And if you hadn't picked up on it by the end, guess what? You're a fucking tard.
Yeah, it's the thing to finish off my point that I was making using the
Yeah.
Sixth Sense and people that do stuff different, like the guy that made Napoleon Dynamite. They're cool that first time, and you like that it's different. But a lot of times, the people that do it ends up being their trademark, and so the things they do after that just aren't as good. Like Nacho Libre, for instance, done by the same guy that did Napoleon Dynamite. It just
Tanked.
I did not like that movie at all because it felt like he was trying to remake Napoleon Dynamite. I mean, it's like
Well-
he's using the same humor, the same type of awkwardness. It just
And in
it-
Nacho
like-
Libre, you've got a super super funny person that if you don't let him do his thing, he's not funny.
I don't know. I mean, I think Jack Black has a little bit of range, but I do feel like he was put in a situation where he wasn't allowed to use any of his strengths.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I don't know. And like with shit, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Unbreakable
all the
still
movies-
hands
all the
down
movies
his
that
best
came
movie.
after Sixth Sense. I mean, they're not all terrible, but they definitely all have the same flavor to them, and because of that, they're just not as like for instance, The Village. As awful as I thought that movie was, it probably would have been 30% better if that was his first movie and I hadn't already seen The Sixth Sense and Signs and
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. I count as complete. Unbreakable is to me his best movie because it's
Oh no, yeah,
completely-
agreed.
It's completely different from the way he does his other films.
Well, and it was one of the first times that they took the idea of a superhero and showed him as not already knowing he was a superhero. Like you go on this adventure of discovery, and yep, that was a buzz. You go on this adventure of discovery of him discovering or him understanding that he does have power when he thinks he's just the average guy, and you've got this brilliant villain, just awesome villain played by Samuel L., which did an excellent job on that role. And he's trying, like, the bad guy and the supporter are trying to convince him that he's a superhero, and he's just like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And then it's like,
That's
don't.
the thing. That's the thing about The Sixth Sense, though, is that that's kind of the twist of the movie, is that it ends up being a superhero origin movie. I mean, the whole movie, like, he keeps trying to convince him that something's different about him, that he survived or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of like throw it off as crazy talk, but you wonder, what exactly is different about Bruce Willis. But then at the end of the movie, you realize, holy shit, Sam Jackson looks exactly like the typical villain that he described earlier in the movie with the big bug eyes and crazy look.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that, holy shit, this entire time I thought I was watching some kind of weird drama movie, and it's a fucking superhero movie.
Yeah.
What? Like, it's just that shift that takes place in your head when you realize it, and people realize it at different points in the movie, but you're just like, what? Um, and I like that approach. I mean,
No, I absolutely agree.
they try to do realistic superheroes, like Hancock. It was a movie about a superhero that had real life problems.
Yeah.
But they did. It's definitely a less subtle movie
Mhm.
than Unbreakable, because the very first time you watch Unbreakable, if you're not told what it is, you're just kind of watching it, and the movie's just going along. And you're like, that's kind of weird. And then you realize it, and you're like, huh?
My
How did I
brain
not
just
think
broke a
this?
little bit. Well, and Scott Pilgrim, which you mentioned earlier, that movie, I love that movie. We grew up on the already existing cult classics like Donnie Darko and Clerks and uh, SLC Punk and just that whole slew of genres that become like they're not really well known movies, but the people who love them are in love with them. And to go to a theater for the first time and witness something that is a cult classic, in my opinion, or that will eventually grow to be greater than what it is, it was just an amazing experience as an overall. You get to see this very simple story. Guy is into girl, girl's kind of into guy, girl's kind of fucked up, and she's trying to forget her history. And very simple concept, but the way they tell that story and all of the shit that they do and all of the call outs that they do to video game lovers and things like that, and then you can easily screw that up. And they found somebody who figured out a way to visually show it in motion, because the original manga comics, I guess that's what they are, they're they work really well as a comic strip. But the idea of doing that as a live action, just as everything's playing through, could very easily turn a lot of people off.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it was something where they took something that existed and had a particular essence to it, and they actually managed to keep the essence while telling the story in a different medium, which is incredibly hard to do. And you know, I think I don't think Peter Jackson gets a lot of credit from diehard Lord of the Rings fans, like the ones that
Mm-hmm.
completely hate his movies because they're different from the books, for because he did change a lot of stuff. But at the same time, I think he kept the essence of Lord of the Rings very much intact, more so than almost any other book to film translation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people give him enough. People that give those movies crap because they're different from the books, I don't think they give him enough credit for that, because that's incredibly hard to take something like Lord of the Rings and keep that essence alive in a different environment from book to film. And not only that, but the changes he made, the things he added in, the things he took out, they make for a better film. They make for a better movie. If the Lord of the Rings, if you could even literally make a direct translation of it into the world of movies from the book, I don't think the movies would be as good as Peter Jackson's. I think if someone came along and made a line for line interpretation of Lord of the Rings, which would probably be like 70 hours of movie, um, if you wanted to put everything in there and not take anything out or add anything,
Mm-hmm.
I'd, even if you could stand watching that much, I don't think it would be as good, because there's some things that work on the page that don't work on the screen. They just don't.
Well, let me ask you this then. Do you think And I'm not gonna say that the Lord of the Rings movies are bad. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of them, but your sister kind of destroyed that for me. Um, but do you think Lord of the Rings might have been better as a TV show with the correct budget, like an HBO television show, than as the movies that they are?
Mm, I don't know that they'd have been better. I think you could have probably done more with it, so you probably could have covered more of the things that were left out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even if you covered those things, I still think that there's a pretty large portion of things that were left out that just they needed to be left out because, like I said, they would have never worked on the screen. Like the character, a lot of people, the one of the biggest complaints is they completely left the character Tom Bombadil out. Uh, and he's kind of a silly character. He goes around, he like sings everything he does almost. It just he wouldn't have been a character that would have worked well on the screen at all. Like I don't I think it was very wise to leave him out of the movie because he's almost inconsequential and he doesn't work well in the type of tone that Peter Jackson was going for with those movies. He just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think to an extent you're a little bit right. I think you probably could have told a more filled out version of the movie with like a mini series or television series.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially when you consider that he's doing The Hobbit broken down into 3 movies.
Yeah, which I after knowing all the backstory on why he is doing that, um, I get it, and I'm maybe more into the Hobbit movie just because it's a lot of he's introducing a lot of stuff that has been written down but was never published.
Oh yeah, and that to me is one of the main reasons I want to see. And it's not just The Hobbit. He's including a lot of stuff that is written down that's not in The Hobbit. But
Right.
a lot of people are like, "Well, you can't just break this one book down into 3 movies." Well, it's not just the one book. He's using parts of the Silmarillion. He's using Tolkien's notes that never ended up making it into published works. So I
Yeah.
mean, he's using a lot more than just the one book.
Right.
Um,
And I respect him enough to say after he got done to say, well, I've got too much for one film, and if I do two, I'm gonna miss out on something. So let's go reshoot some. Let's get some more shots and just do 3 movies. I respect that more than trying to do just one solid run
well,
through.
well, it wasn't, and it wasn't. A lot of people were like, "It's the studio trying to make more money," and I'm like, "Well,
That
before
was
he
his
even announced that
decision.
there was going to be a third movie, he said he had a ton of stuff left over and that he was still shooting footage."
Hmm.
So I mean, it's not that.
Yeah. Well, and
It's the only time in my life that I've ever looked at forums and discussion threads on anything and actually heard people complain about getting more. I'm like, really? Like, do you complain to your girlfriend when she wants to have another round of sex? Nope, that's too much. It's too much.
there is chafing. There
There's
is
only
chafing.
there is only enough in this condom for one round. Like, I just like, really, guys, really? No, I don't want another season of The Walking Dead. It's too much. I mean, yeah, when it starts to get shitty, say that, but before you've even had a product to look at and tell whether or not you're gonna like it, don't complain that you're getting more of it. That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever. That's a complete lack of logic. I was like, man, Domino's bread sure is good, but I don't want 2 free pizzas when I buy one. I only want one.
Yeah.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
If what
That's,
movie?
by the way, not a product plug for Domino's. We're not affiliated in
Oh.
any way. Sorry to confuse anybody if I did that.
Fuck Domino's, but I will eat your pizza from time to time. Yummy in my tummy.
Hey man, ever since they did the redo of their pizza, that shit's pretty tasty. Plus, if you do carry out, they do the like large 3 topping for like $8, or they used to.
Mm-hmm.
That shit's my jam.
Hmm?
Triple pepperoni. It's like a whole side of pig on top of my pizza.
If you could pick one of your more favorite movies that were or that you saw at just the right time and to have it redone, what one would you pick?
Hmm. The movie I think off the top of my head that is most begging for a remake in the current environment would probably be They Live, John
Hmm.
Carpenter's movie.
Okay. Why is that? Because you
Well,
know I
because
haven't seen
I
the
think
flick.
I think that from a social standpoint, political standpoint, and also from a technological movie making standpoint, it's the perfect movie to remake right now. I mean, for those who have never seen it, They Live is basically a movie where Rowdy Roddy Piper plays like a homeless construction worker type dude, and he ends up like shit is not right with society. He finds these like they're basically like magic 3D glasses that let him see through illusions, and he sees that all the advertisements on billboards and magazines and stuff are like really just a huge subliminal message that say things like obey and things
Oh,
like
right.
that. And he can also see the aliens, like you can see through the like fake skin that they're wearing and see the aliens that are running everything. uh so right now that's like a perfect thing because we're in a society where we're questioning things, and we're being marketed to almost every second of our lives that we're awake.
Yeah.
There's some kind of marketing on something that we're looking at. I mean, and I'm not saying whether or not it's a good or bad thing, but a lot of people have Android phones and use Google shit, and I mean that's how they make their money. Everything's ad based.
Hmm.
So I mean, right now the society exists where that movie could be remade and you could tell a really good story. But also because we're doing so many 3D movies now, you could even tie that in, like have the movie be 2D for most of it, but then the parts where they put the glasses on, you could cue people to put their glasses on and actually have only parts of the movie be 3D instead of having a whole 3D movie. I think it would be kind of a cool gimmick they could do. Uh,
True.
that's just me. I mean, I see something they could do really cool with it, but people might disagree. People might hate the idea of a 3D movie where you don't use the glasses the whole time, especially if they charge you full 3D ticket price where you're paying like $15 for it or some shit.
Hmm.
So I mean, I know there are obvious drawbacks to that plan, but I still think it would be cool.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I'm not a big fan of the 3D as an overall. I just
Um, I don't know. With 3D, it depends. When you do the shit like Avatar, where you actually make the movie in 3D and you spend gobs of money on it and film it in 3D, it looks really good. Avatar, I mean, to me, Avatar had a complete shit story. I mean, it's the same story that's in Disney's Pocahontas, it's in The Last Samurai, it's in,
no.
uh,
Yeah. I mean, it's an atypical story. It's just they showed a new way to tell the story.
I mean, to me, the
You know what I mean?
whole magic of Avatar, and I still bought the movie because it's fun to watch.
It's a good popcorn flick.
It's fun to watch, but it's still, I mean, the story
Unentertaining.
writing on it is not horribly original. To me, the real magic was seeing the movie in the theater on the big screen in 3D because that was the most mind-blowing 3D I had ever seen at that point. And I mean, I'm sure there are people that had seen some 3D that was pretty good before that, but to me, that was the first one I had seen that didn't look shitty, it didn't look gimmicky, it didn't look like they had taken a 2D picture, cut out a part of it and like popped it out. Uh,
Yeah.
it looked really good. And I like those 3D movies. I feel like I get my money's worth when I pay for a 3D ticket or I go to see that. But when I go to a movie like immediately after that, a bunch of movies were capitalizing off of it because Avatar made like $1 billion or more at the box office.
Well,
And
and Avatar was beautiful. Like even not in 3D,
wait,
that
and even
movie was
even special
beautiful.
effects are yeah, the special effects are gorgeous. But there were movies that capitalized on it after that. Like I remember one that people completely eviscerated in their reviews, at least as far as the 3D goes. But I never watched the movie, but I heard even the movie, if not in 3D, was kind of shit. Um, but there were a bunch of movies that came out after that that capitalized it. But one of them was Clash of the Titans, the
Oh
remake,
right, yeah, yeah.
and people were just talking all kinds of shit about how shit awful the 3D was because it was that crappy last minute post production. Hey, we filmed the movie, now make it 3D 3D that Hollywood had been doing before Avatar, and unfortunately they still do it a little bit. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they film a movie like a normal movie, and then they go in after the fact and make it 3D, and you can definitely tell the difference because
Well,
it's it's gimmicky looking.
and with Avatar, it was. I don't know how they got the approval for this, but Avatar created new technology just so they could show the movie that way.
Oh yeah, no, I mean they took a little bit of a long time making the movie too, because some of the technology that James Cameron was involved in getting put together for the movie actually ended up getting used in movies that came out before Avatar
Mm-hmm.
did. But I mean, to me, that speaks volumes about, you know, how willing he is as a filmmaker to get something done, and that
Oh yeah. Well, what astonishes me is I would have loved to have heard his pitch or whatever, because he's like, look, we're gonna film it this way, but it's gonna be really hard for you to understand because the technology doesn't exist yet, so we're gonna have to invent that too.
eh,
Well, that's what they did. They had to invent a lot of the technology in order for it to be filmed that way.
yeah, but at this point in his career though, I kind of think that James Cameron just kind of shows up into these rooms and says, "I'm James Cameron. I want to make a movie," and people like lay down, bend over, and shit money out of their ass for him to do it.
True.
I mean, that's pretty much how the guy rolls. I mean,
Like
ever
a
since
boss.
Terminator 2 like exploded his career, and
Yeah.
then Titanic. Even though, yes, that's correct, ladies and gentlemen listening, I have never watched Titanic. And I'm
You're not
actually kind
missing
of proud
much.
of that. I don't care if the movie's good or bad. I just think it's an accomplishment to go to my grave and say that managed to never watch it. Um,
On your deathbed, if I'm still alive, I'm gonna put a screen in front of your face and hold your eyeballs open and just have it play. You're gonna be like, no, with the respirator on, so you've got the whole Vader thing going down. And
you smoke and drink, sir. Which one of us do you think is going to die first?
you're absolutely right. I do smoke and drink, but me and the universe have an understanding.
Uh
Every-
huh. But no, I mean, and after Titanic, I don't think Terminator 2 and Titanic together. I think have pretty much cemented James Cameron into a place where he can do no wrong,
Yeah,
as
true.
far as producers are concerned, and as far as getting him money that he needs. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just we got off on this tangent, but the whole idea was that
Yeah,
you don't.
no. I mean, it's like
And
I've been
I
sitting here this
like
whole time wondering, like, well, what movie would I prefer to have remade? Because initially, I'm gonna jump to like the Turtles because I love the Turtles. But honestly, the first Turtles movie is good. It really is. Like, there's some things that need a little bit of updating, but frankly, I wouldn't change that movie because it's time sensitive, and that world that they built for the first movie, it works. It works for what that movie is.
yeah.
And then I jump to maybe movies that I have a little less of a love for, but I think they're still fantastic movies. Like maybe Goonies, maybe, and I know that's blasphemous to say, but to get some better, we got better child actors these days. I think the some visual effects could help that movie out a little bit more. But then again, I wouldn't change that because it's still good and it fits that demographic. And I'm starting to move towards something that doesn't that I watched once, hated the movie, but the idea is really good, and that's like Labyrinth. So you're listening to the Nerd Method podcast with West and
Chris.
yay, you got it this time. You can get in touch with us on fuck. What's the email? I forgot.
uh,
You
hold on,
forgot
let me make
too.
Sure, let me make sure I know what it is without fucking it up. I have it on my phone.
I believe it is nerdmethodpodcast at gmail.com.
Yeah, methodpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, just email us if you want to talk to us.
You might want to re-record that. That's a clusterfuck failure right there.
I think it's a nice intro. I really think it's a nice intro. Oh.